Hi, everyone. My name is Greg Moore. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Vice President of Fitness for Workout Anytime Franchising LLC, and I'm glad you could be here with me today, wherever you are. This is the Sprint 8 Coaches Course. It's designed to get trainers and the rest of the staff at Workout Anytime up to speed on what is Sprint 8, how do I talk to members about it, how do I teach it, and how do I do it myself, and why should I do all that? What are the benefits? So we're going to go through all that now. So what is Sprint 8? What is it? Well, Sprint 8 is a scientifically proven form of HIIT training. And we'll talk about what HIIT is. It's high intensity interval training. It requires just 20 minutes, 3 times per week, and it can be done by anyone at any fitness level. Best of all, in a study they did on Sprint 8 protocol, people lost 27% of their body fat average in 8 weeks with a total of just 8 hours of exercise. That's 8 hours over the entire 8 weeks. That's just an hour of exercise each week. So it's a big deal. It really works. Now, we're not going to click on that video below and watch it, but you're going to get a copy of this presentation as a PDF. And when you do, you can go and you can click on it and watch the video. It's a great video. You can also always go to Sprint 8, just as it says on the top there, .com. There's a whole website devoted to Sprint 8 to learn more. So what are the proven benefits of Sprint 8? Well, in that hospital-funded study on Sprint 8, participants showed a 27.4% average drop in body fat in 8 weeks, doing just 3 20-minute Sprint 8 workouts per week with no changes in their diet at all. In the same study, and this is a really big deal, the participants' growth hormone, this is after their first workout, they measured it, was increased over 6 times, 603%. Growth hormone is a big deal, guys. It's a huge deal. It's so important, it's so beneficial that many people spend many thousands, up to 10,000 a month, to do human growth hormone injections as they get older because this hormone's so important to our health, well-being, and disease resistance. It helps us build and maintain muscle, helps the quality of our skin, hair, helps every organ rebuild and regenerate. So really, really important. Obviously, in an adult, it doesn't make you grow. It also is very important for bone health. So huge deal. That kind of increase is exactly what you see giving injections, but there's all sorts of problems and potential side effects of the injections. This is a big deal. They followed them throughout the 8 weeks of the study, and even after the first workout where they got the biggest bump, they were still getting over a 400% increase in growth hormone for the hours immediately following the workout. So that's like getting a growth hormone shot every time you do that workout. Really big deal. Total cholesterol and the bad LDL cholesterol dropped, right? Along with triglycerides. That is good stuff, guys. Those are all the lipids we want to see dropping in the blood. All the fats in the blood started to drop, and the HDL, the good cholesterol, actually increased. This is with no changes in diet or medication. If you really want to see the whole study, find out about it, if you go to the Sprint 8 website, or when you get this PDF, if you click on this, it'll take you to the full white paper giving you all the details of the study. So what is HIIT anyway? HIIT is high intensity interval training. It involves short bouts of high intensity anaerobic exercise, such as a sprint for 30 seconds, followed by a recovery period. And then this cycle of work and rest is repeated several times in succession. Although the sprint is clearly anaerobic, during the rest interval, everything changes. So when you're sprinting, guys, here's what happens. You're doing so much muscular work so fast that your cardiovascular system cannot possibly supply enough oxygen to the muscle cells for them to be able to derive energy aerobically with oxygen. So they do it without oxygen. Now, you can do this for a short period of time, but you can't do it for too long, obviously. Now, as soon as you stop the sprint and you're in recovery mode, the cardiovascular system is going to kick in big time. It's going to be doing two things it's working on. It's going to help you get rid of that lactic acid, that burn. You're literally going to carry it in your bloodstream with your circulatory system. It goes to your lungs, and you literally blow lactic acid off as carbon dioxide, which is why you're blowing out so hard after a sprint. It's got to get rid of that lactic acid. At the same time, you have to take in a bunch of oxygen because you're in deficit, because you did a bunch of work, you kind of borrowed You did it without the oxygen, but now you need to repay a deficit that was created because you didn't have enough oxygen to be aerobic during the interval. So EPOC is another term we want to understand and how this fits in with HIIT training. EPOC stands for excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. And it refers to the fact that during recovery, you need more oxygen to recover than your body would have used during the sprint had it been able to deliver enough oxygen to the muscles to obtain the required energy aerobically, right? So let's remember that oxygen consumption, the reason we're talking about that is calorie consumption. It's the same thing, right? Oxygen consumption, calorie burning, and metabolic rate are all the same stuff, really, different words for the same thing. So the higher your oxygen consumption, the more calories you are burning. So that means what's happening during HIIT is we typically get a much higher overall calorie burn. And there's two parts. What I burn during the workout, but also what I burn afterwards from EPOC, right? Another word for EPOC, a simpler word to use with members who don't want to hear all this fancy lingo, is afterburn. So the term we want to use with members is afterburn. And this slide is a great slide that really tells the whole story. On the left-hand side, you see metabolic rate, right? And then you see time going along the lower side of it, right? So this is depicting two workouts. One is a steady aerobic workout, the one in gray. That's what happens. You warm up, you go at a steady walk, jog, or run pace, then you cool down. And that shows what's going to happen with your metabolic rate, which is the same thing as your oxygen consumption, which is the same thing as your calorie burning, right? And then we see the afterburn effect associated with the other workout, which is a HIIT workout. Those little spikes, those are high intensity sprints, if you will, right? And then there's recovery and sprint, and it happens over and over again. Notice that each sprint pushes that metabolic rate higher and higher because I'm progressively not able to recover fully. That's one of the keys when you're doing interval training. And notice that the metabolic rate and the oxygen consumption, that calorie burn, is elevated for hours after the workout. This is what the big deal is with HIIT training. So EPOC, or afterburn, significantly elevates metabolic rate and calorie burn for up to 36 hours after a HIIT workout. Big deal. That's kind of money for nothing, guys. Free calorie burn, right? And this is the great part. The less fit the person doing it, the more EPOC, the more afterburn there tends to be. As we get fitter, we recover faster at the end of a workout. For new people, that metabolic rate is going to be elevated for up to 36 hours. So great to let new people, beginners, know that they can get a lot out of this protocol as well as advanced people. So metabolic conditioning, I want to talk about this a little bit because this is what our MX4 program is all about. Metabolic conditioning is also known as Metcon. And it also has intervals, and it's also a HIIT type program. But in an MX4 class, anyone who's done that know this, there's cardio, strength, and power movements with relatively short recovery periods in between, right? MX4 is Workout Anytime's group metabolic conditioning program. That's a fancy name for it, but it's what it's technically called, right? A little bit different than Sprint 8. And Metcon's also going to give you a big calorie burn during exercise, promotes muscle mass, right? It's going to help you build some muscle a little bit more than Sprint 8 might, and it increases metabolic rate for up to 36 hours after a workout, just like a Sprint 8 workout would. So now let's take a look at the difference between a high intensity interval training workout versus your typical warm up and then it's steady aerobic training, which is called steady state aerobic training. So in HIIT training produces increases in aerobic and anaerobic capacity, right? But you're going to get fitter aerobically and anaerobically. In steady state typical cardio training, you're not going to change anything anaerobically. You're only going to improve your aerobic capacity. And in fact, you can improve your aerobic capacity as much through HIIT training as you can through steady state training. So there's a lot of advantages to HIIT training. HIIT training can be short, right? 15 to 30 minute session, including warm up and cool down, 3 times a week. That's all you got to do to get results. With steady state aerobic cardiovascular training, you got to train longer and more frequently to get results. I want to make something clear. Steady state aerobic training is not bad. It is absolutely good for your health. It is just not particularly good at driving the results that our clients want. Okay, in HIIT training, we're going to get a higher net calorie usage. This is the big deal compared to steady state training. Why is that? Because we can burn calories during the workout, but we burn more calories as well afterwards. That's not the case with steady state training. We tend to get a lower overall net calorie usage compared to HIIT training because we don't see that after workout, afterburn that we do in HIIT. Exercise at high intensity and progress duration of exercise in high intensity. So even with a beginner, we're going to start them off with high intensity intervals. Now, high intensity is a relative term relative to their fitness level, but we're going to push them to work hard on their scale, right? And then over time, we're going to push them to do more of those intervals and or extend the time of the intervals. That's how we progress under your typical HIIT program, right? Whereas in a steady state training program, we're going to exercise at a lower intensity, right? If we're doing steady aerobic training, we start people at a low intensity for a longer period of time. And then to progress, we don't extend the time so much, we increase the intensity. So two different ways of progressing over time, different approaches to fitness, right? The HIIT training model is called a reverse periodization model, and the other model, steady state training, is a traditional periodization model. There are significant increases in growth hormone and testosterone without significant increases in cortisol with HIIT training. What does that mean? Guys, as we age, I'm 58, you want that growth hormone to stay elevated and you want that testosterone to stay elevated. They are good both for men and women, right? But particularly men, testosterone, growth hormones, good for both. And the way we keep them high is doing HIIT type training along with strength training. Okay, what we don't want to do is see rises in cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. We're going to release a lot of it every morning when we wake up. It's not a bad thing as long as it's under control. As we age, what tends to happen is cortisol tends to creep up. Our lives get more stressful. We don't exercise. We don't eat properly. Our sleep is affected. When cortisol goes up, growth hormone and testosterone goes down. Long workouts can make cortisol go up. Okay, so ideally we don't want to do that. So someone who's older, like myself at 58, I want to see increased growth hormone, testosterone, but I don't want to do a lot of workouts that are going to increase my cortisol. And during steady state training, you're not going to get any increase in growth hormone or testosterone, none at all. And you can get, if you do it too much, too often, too long, significant increases in cortisol. So now we're losing muscle mass, and all the bad stuff we don't want to happen can happen from just steady state aerobic training. So this leads into what is our client's primary goal? What do they say? And this is exactly what they say, and I know everyone listening to this has heard this from members. When you say, what do you want to accomplish? They're going to say something like this. I want to lose weight and tone up. Now, our translation, we know that the translation of that is they want to lose body fat and maintain or slightly increase muscle mass. That's what needs to happen for them to be happy. And traditional programs of cardio are really bad at doing that. We're going to take a look at some studies that have to do with showing you just how bad they are. Here's an example. 45 minutes of aerobic exercise at 78% of maximum heart rate, 5 days per week for 12 weeks had no effect on fat loss over dieting alone. That's not exactly a good piece of news for steady state aerobic exercisers. This one's even worse. Why? Because this looked at 400 studies looking at diet and aerobic exercise by itself. And after looking at all those studies, the scientists who did this meta-analysis concluded that aerobic exercise does not provide a significant advantage over diet. Again, am I saying is it bad for you? No, what I'm saying is it by itself is not going to get our clients where they want to do. It's not how they should be spending their time in the gym. In a 6-month study with one group using diet only and one group using diet plus 50 minutes of aerobic exercise 5 days per week, there was no additional loss of fat in the diet plus aerobic exercise group. Think about that, guys. No additional fat loss. We got a lot of people in our gyms wasting a lot of time walking, diddy bopping along on cardio for 20, 30 minutes at a time and getting nowhere really fast. There is a better way. And here's one of many studies, including the Sprint 8 study that I showed you earlier. Here's another study. You had two groups that trained 3 times per week for 6 weeks. One group did interval training, just 4 to 6 work intervals, 30-second long, with 4 full minutes of recovery between each one, right? Doesn't sound too horrible. The steady state aerobic training group trained at 65% of VO2. For those of you who don't understand that, that is a good aerobic exercise pace. They trained for 30 to 60 minutes. The fat loss was 114% more with the interval training group than the steady state training group in a much shorter period of total exercise time. There you go. We also know that resistance training is really effective for fat loss. We're going to look at 3 studies and talk about why this is important to understand. Overweight subjects were assigned to 3 groups. Diet-only group, diet plus aerobics plus weights. The diet group lost 14.6 pounds of fat in 12 weeks in this study. The aerobic-only group lost 15, the diet plus aerobics lost 15.6 pounds. Training was 3 times per week, starting at 30 minutes and progressing to 50 minutes over 12 weeks. It's a lot of time there, guys. Weight training group lost 21.1 pounds of fat, right? They did all 3, right? So big deal there, big deal there. And that's why we want to include weight training in everybody's program. Another study, subjects were assigned to 3 groups, diet only, diet plus aerobics, diet plus resistant training. All groups lost similar amounts of total weight. However, only the resistance training group maintained lean body mass and resting energy expenditure. That's a big deal, guys. When we lose lean body mass, that means we lose things like muscle and or bone, mostly muscle in this case. That's going to drop our resting energy expenditure. When our resting energy expenditure drops, it means we're burning less calories all day long just sitting in the chair. We want to burn as many calories as possible while we're sitting in that chair. We do not want to lose lean mass. Really important. Another study, effects of resistance versus aerobic training combined with an 800-calorie liquid diet on lean body mass and resting metabolic rate. Now, do we advocate ever a calorie diet this low? Absolutely not. Never under 1,200 calories a day. Just can't get enough nutrition. Not safe. But let's look at what happened in this study anyway. The aerobic group did 4 hours of aerobic exercise per week. The resistance training group did 2 to 4 sets of 8 to 15 reps, 10 exercise, 3 times a week. VO2 max, meaning that's their cardiovascular aerobic capacity, increased equally in both groups. Even though they didn't do aerobic training, look what happened to the resistance training group. The aerobic group lost 27 pounds of fat, but look at that, 10 pounds of muscle. Not good, guys. And what do we see because of that muscle loss? Reduced metabolic rate by 210 calories a day. The person's burning less than when they started. That is not a good thing. Not a good thing. The resistance training group, by adding that in there, what happened? They lost more fat, but they lost no muscle. And their metabolic rate actually increased by 65 calories a day. So not only they look and feel better than the other group, they're burning more calories at rest than the other group. Really big deal, guys. We need to get clients to weight train. So how do we put all 3 of these things together? Sprint 8, MX4, and strength training. This is a how-to guide, real simple. We want our clients doing 1 up to 3 Sprint 8 workouts per week. We want them doing 1 up to 2 strength training workouts per week. And if you have MX4 in your club, we want them doing 1 up to 2 MX4 workouts per week. So for example, if you had all 3 in your club, you could do 3 Sprint 8 workouts, a strength training workout, and an MX4 workout. If you didn't have MX4, you could do 2 and 2 or 3 and 1, right? But we want to sprinkle in that strength training of some type in there, right? We could just do Sprint 8 and MX4 because MX4 does have a weight training component. But this is the type of advice we should be giving all clients in terms of the type of program they need to participate in to lose weight and maintain muscle and look and feel the way they want to feel. Advantages of Sprint 8, time efficient, just 20 minutes 3 times a week to reduce body fat by up to 30% in 8 weeks. Some participants in that study lost 30% body fat in 8 weeks. The average was 27, some lost up to 30%. Simple and easy to learn, especially now that we're going to have trained Sprint 8 coaches who understand it, understand how to communicate the benefits, and understand how to administer the program as well. Sprint 8 can be done using any piece of cardio equipment from rower to bike to recumbent bike to elliptical to treadmill. You could even do it with certain body weight exercises like marching or running in place. Now for clubs that have MX4 equipment, can you do Sprint 8 on the S-Drive treadmills? Of course you can. Can you do it on the rowers? Absolutely. Can you do it on the crank cycle? Yes. But can you also do it on your matrix cardio equipment? And the answer is absolutely. And the new clubs even have a Sprint 8 button that if you have a group or an individual going through, will walk them through how to do that. And then your job is to help them customize the intensity of effort. So over time, they learn to give that true 100%. Because trust me, they're not going to do that the first couple times they do that. And they really need coaching to help them give their maximum effort there. And it can be done in a group situation. If you don't have the Sprint 8 button in the cardio, it's no big deal. Use a timer. You can use, if you have MX4, your MX4 timer, or you can buy an MX4 timer to put up on the wall, or you can just use it on your phone and create a timer and work with the individual or group and take them through a Sprint 8 workout. And Sprint 8 is appropriate for all fitness levels, from brand new beginner to elite athlete and everyone in between. Guys, this is true. Anybody can do this. You can be walking, you can be sprinting. It all depends on the person's fitness level, but the concept and the benefits are the same regardless of fitness level. This is Sprint 8. This one slide gives you the whole thing. 3-minute warm-up, 30-second sprint, 90 seconds of active recovery, and you're going to repeat that 8 times with a 2.5-minute cool down. That's Sprint 8. That's easy to build into any of the free timers you can get on your phone. Very simple. The key is the timing, and the key is teaching the person the right level of effort and how to adjust the intensity of exercise depending on the piece of equipment they're using or if they're using body weight. Instruct clients to eat a balanced meal 2 hours before the workout and hydrate pre-workout. Instruct clients to start the warm-up at 60% of their perceived maximum effort and build to 80% by the end. And that's on their own scale, guys, their own scale. Sprints. During the sprints, remember, we want that timer set up so we can manage the work time and the recovery time, right? You're going to have to coach clients over time to give a true maximum effort during the sprint. Maximum is different for clients with different fitness levels. For some, maximum effort may just be a fast walking pace. That would be my mom. That's going to be her sprint. Someone's really fit, they're going to be truly sprinting. They could be running on a treadmill at 12 miles an hour. They could have a elliptical at its maximum level going really fast, right? So everything is scalable to the client's ability level, right? And that is your job as a coach. Coach clients to understand that being out of breath, sweating, and feeling muscle-borne are normal. And for this type of a workout, that indicates that they're where they need to be. Right? How do we adjust intensity? On treadmills, we can add incline if they don't want to run, or we can adjust speed or a little bit of both, and then we reduce it during recovery. Whereas if we're using an elliptical, a bike, a recumbent bike, we're going to adjust the amount of resistance and the cadence, the speed with which we're doing the exercise, right? So pretty simple, but that's part of your job, is to tell and teach the client how to do that. The other thing over time, this is very important. As a trainer, you and or the client want to start recording their work levels. You don't have to do this right away, because if we want to keep making progress over the long haul, they have to try to work harder. And what that means is, if we know, for example, they were on a rower and you were looking at watts, and during the work interval, they were working at, I'm making this up, 300 watts, we'd want to try to beat that over time and progressively do more and more work. So looking at how much work and the work rate during work intervals is something important you can do and teach them to do so they keep progressing with Sprint 8. For unfit beginners, you can start with just 4 intervals and allow them to spend the extra time in active recovery, then build to 8 intervals. So for example, if you had a beginner and you're doing a class and they're really unfit, they could do one 30-second interval, they could do 90 seconds of recovery, they could skip the next interval, and then they could jump in on the next sprint. So they could only do half as many intervals as someone else and then gradually build up to those 8 full intervals. Right? Coaches, you also need to ensure that all participants sign waivers and a complete PAR-Q. This is a physical activity readiness questionnaire. If you don't have it, email me. I'll get it to you, greg.maurer@workoutanytime.com, or go to Fran Connect. It's on there. When in doubt, refer them out to a physician before allowing them to participate. Active recovery intervals. It is critical to not stop moving during recovery to prevent blood from pooling in the extremities and causing dizziness and faintness. They can move at a light pace to recover, but they got to keep moving. Low intensity movement for 90 seconds following each work interval, right? That's what active recovery is. If the client recovers completely before the next interval, coach them to work harder in the next sprint to get the full benefits of Sprint 8. Sip water during active recovery. No gulp, sip. Make sure they have their water with them in a water bottle before they start the workout so they're not running around trying to get water. That kind of ruins the whole effect of the workout. Cool down. Want to maintain that active recovery pace and keep moving at a low intensity to gradually lower heart rate. How do you know when to end cool down? Because at the end of cool down, they should be able to comfortably speak again. That lets you and them know that they're ready to stop working out entirely. Post-workout recovery, when they leave us, 2-hour post-workout time period is when the body will most rapidly absorb nutrients for recovery and tissue repair. So we want to take advantage of that. Instruct those clients to eat 20 to 25 grams of protein, such as lean meat, nuts, or cottage cheese, with some form of carbohydrate, along with some water, right? A recovery shake is the easiest way to solve this, right? Super easy. There are many good options out there.